Christmas!
Happy Crimblington's helmet heads, and welcome to the very first instalment of the Ian's VR Corner Top 10 PSVR2 list, where I, Ian Higton, will be going over my 10 favourite PSVR2 games of 2023. As per usual, the following list is completely my opinion, and it only features games that I myself have played. So, if I've missed out on one of your favourites, chances are it's either because I thought it was a bit bobbins, or that I just didn't have enough time to give it a go. Either way, please do share the love for your favourite PSVR2 games of 2023 in the comments below, and hopefully, together, we can inspire others to try them out too. Coming in at number 10 for the first entry on this list of the best PSVR2 games of 2023 is Kayak VR Mirage. Playing this game feels like you've gone on holiday, except that you didn't have to pack anything and you didn't have to push through crowds at an airport to then wait for hours for a delayed plane that in the end smells of farts. The photorealistic visuals brought by this cracking kayak sim are some of, if not the best VR visuals I've ever experienced, and it is incredibly easy to lose yourself in its chilled vibes as you paddle amongst some of the most serene scenery I have ever seen. There's not a huge amount to this game beyond some time trials and a free roam mode that lets you soak up the atmosphere, but believe me when I tell you that you'll still cherish every moment that you're inside it. The paddling mechanics are easy to pick up, the views are spectacular, and with real-time multiplayer and open-world updates promised, there should be a bit of life in it too. If you're looking for the perfect, gentle game to introduce yourself and your friends and family to the PSVR 2 this Christmas, you, my friends, have found it with Kayak VR Mirage.
There. Where are you taking me?
If you were to ask me which game I think that brand new owners of the PSVR 2 should get over any other after Kayak VR Mirage, I'd probably say Horizon Call of the Mountain. This game has been tailor-made to show off the PSVR 2 headset and sense controllers in the most spectacular ways possible, and it achieves this and then some. Like Kayak, the visuals are stunning, especially those of the distant vistas and tumbling waterfalls. But where Kayak is a bit of a one-trick pony, Horizon Call of the Mountain is a whole magic show. From the excellent use of headset haptics, which makes it feel like an actual tall neck is stomping over you, through to some stomach-churning climbs which demonstrate the accuracy of the sense controllers perfectly, everything in here comes together to convince you that VR is the next step forward in video gaming technology. Sure, the gameplay gets a bit dull and repetitive after a while, and the on-rails combat feels a bit too restrictive at times, but even so, I had more wow moments during my first hour of playing this game for review than perhaps any flat game I've played all year. Except for, I guess, maybe Alan Wake 2, because seriously, that game is amazing.
You have walked in the shadows, Reyes. Now it is time to climb into the light.
Wake up. I know you can. Open your eyes.
I've grouped both Red Matter and its sequel, Red Matter 2, into the 8th entry in this list, as both games are phenomenal, and if you've played one, you'll instantly want to experience the other. The original Red Matter game, which is one of my favourite original PSVR titles, looked great, even on that older, less powerful headset. But thanks to some nifty updates, you can now experience the beauty of this creepy escape room-style sci-fi adventure in glorious PSVR 2A vision, complete with a much higher resolution and HDR rendering too. Its sequel, Red Matter 2, ups the ante set by the first game, however, by giving us much larger areas to explore, some jaw-dropping space-based views to drink in, and it even introduces some simple shooting mechanics too, in order to add a bit of spice and variety to the puzzle-solving action. If you're a fan of sci-fi mysteries with a spooky vibe, then I couldn't recommend this pair of games highly enough. They're both a treat for the eyeballs and a treat for those of us who love a damn good VR brain teaser.
So to summarize, yes, the Fobian drive malfunctioned and triggered ahead of time. And yes,
Cosmodread properly freaked me out when I played it on PCVR, so the launch of this incredibly scary budget horror title on PSVR2 was a very welcome one indeed. Cosmodread is a roguelike game with heavy Dead Space vibes, so that means searching through terminally dark, procedurally generated spaceships, all while some incredibly messed up monsters try to make mincemeat of your insides. Like most roguelikes, Cosmodread starts off really hard, but as you push on, you'll discover new items and craft new weapons which will help you survive just a little bit longer each time. Despite the slightly basic and rather repetitive layouts of the ship, the scares are kept to a maximum in Cosmodread, thanks in part to the challenging difficulty level and the large number of extremely grotesque creatures that stumble at you from out of the darkness. And that's not even mentioning the awesome sound design that has the ability to make my skin itch with fear as I try to imagine what new horror could be waiting for me just beyond the next door. Despite not being the longest or the best produced game on this list, I still think that Cosmodread is one of the scariest games that you can get on the PSVR2, so this is a must-buy for all VR horror fans. But wait! The Red Matters aren't the only two games that I'm bundling together for this list, because next up, I've got The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 1 was my second favourite PSVR game of all time, just behind Astro Bot Rescue Mission, so I'm glad that at least one of those two games took advantage of a big old PSVR 2 update. Chapter 1 really is the closest you'll get to experiencing what it feels like to live through an actual real-life zombie apocalypse, and in it you'll need to sneak and scavenge to stay alive, whilst also making some life-or-death decisions regarding the fates of other human survivors. Guns and ammo are super limited, so every trip away from the safe haven of your graveyard base is a trip into a terrifying unknown. And getting into any kind of altercation, whether it be with humans or walkers, is fraught with danger. Its sequel, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution, may have a scarily long title, but when it comes to gameplay, this open-world scavenge 'em up is less challenging than its predecessor. That's not to say that this chapter isn't still good, but as it's an enhanced version of a Quest 2 game, the gameplay and the level design feels way more simplistic and arcadey than I would have liked. Buy both games as a bundle, however, and you will get a lot of gameplay for your cash, which is great if you're one of those people who really prefers your VR experiences to be lengthy rather than short and bite-sized. Did you get it? Bite-sized? Because zombies?
Welcome home.
How far could he have gone?
The VR mode for the Resident Evil 4 Remake is the most recently released entry on this list, and just like the other VR versions of Capcom's classic horror series, this one feels lavishly produced and it is incredibly immersive to play. Being able to experience this grey and gruesome world through the eyes of Leon Kennedy makes this action-packed installment even more intense and immersive than when played in third-person pancake mode. And it feels so real. You can almost smell the decayed flesh that pretty much covers the floor, walls and ceilings of every building you go in. You can physically reload all of your weapons too, which is great for immersion, but for some reason the weapon physics aren't as realistic as those in Resi Village. In that game you can balance your knife on top of your gun, for instance, but try it in Resi 4 and the knife just falls through your gun. It's a little nitpick for sure, and it doesn't spoil the fact that this game is literally incredible in VR and an absolute must-play for PSVR 2 owners. But it does mean that Resi 4 appears just underneath the next game on this list. And that game is, of course, Resident Evil Village, a title that is, in my humble opinion, the best horror game on the PSVR2 so far. Put the headset on and you'll be confronted by visuals that are of such incredible quality, it'll make Ethan's journey around the titular village feel almost too real. And when you combine that realism with the epic set pieces, the towering bosses, and of course that bit in the Beneviento mansion that is sure to make even the bravest of gamers cry out in fear, you have easily the most immersive and luxuriously produced horror game on Sony's headset. It's a beefy game too, and in my opinion, playing Resident Evil Village on the PSVR2 is the best way to experience it, especially when Lady D is involved. Thanks to how gorgeous Resident Evil Village looks, you'll have no problems at all getting immersed in its world. So if you want scares aplenty in a phenomenally produced VR package, look no further than Resident Evil Village, because it truly is the cream of the creepy crop. But when it comes to delivering pure forget-the-real-world immersion, no other game on this list comes as close as Gran Turismo 7. Even though I'm in no way a racing game fan, at launch I couldn't stop myself from diving into this one whenever possible, just to feel the incredible sense of speed and pace that Gran Turismo 7 brings. I loved it so much, in fact, that at one point I crowned this my favourite PSVR2 launch title. From the lush, ultra-detailed vehicle interiors to the gorgeous recreations of real-world racetracks, GT7 is a visual treat, and thundering around its speedways is a thrill that every PSVR2 owner should experience. I've only played the game with the DualSense controller, and even then I got totally lost in the experience, so God only knows how immersive this game would be when sat in one of those fancy racing chairs with the pedals and the steering wheel and the gear sticky thingy, whatever it's called. I'd probably cry. GT7 is easily one of the definitive PSVR2 experiences going at the moment. And whether you're a fan of driving games or not, this one will take your breath away, 0 to 60 style, in under 6 seconds. Synapse really is the perfect PSVR2 game, and I'm not just saying that because the developers put my words into their launch trailer. Look, see? There they are. Good words, them. The way this game works with the PSVR2's headset and controllers to make you feel effortlessly cool and powerful is unlike anything else that I've ever played, and its only downfall for me is the fact that it's rather short. This is a game that you'll pick up to play and then won't be able to put down again until you've gotten absolutely everything that you can out of it. The shooting and cover mechanics are great, the black and white visuals punctuated by bursts of colour are super stylish, and the Force-like telekinesis mechanics that are controlled using the PSVR2's eye-tracking technology are literally intoxicating. Seriously, I've played plenty of games that feature telekinetic powers in flat-screen form, but there's a magic here and a sense of being that only VR can deliver. This believability, this almost tangible way in which you can interact with the world around you will bring any Jedi dreams bursting to life. And all of this makes Synapse a game that deserves to be played by anyone and everyone who owns a PSVR 2. In my top 11 PSVR 2 launch games video, I placed Pavlov VR in 3rd position, but since then, this epically immersive multiplayer shooter has become my most played PSVR 2 game by far, and therefore it had to be my best PSVR 2 game of 2023. There's a rather steep learning curve when it comes to playing Pavlov VR because it prides itself on realism, so every gun in the game is accurately modelled and needs to be reloaded physically in exactly the same way as you would do it in real life. This leads to a lot of fumbling at first, but experimenting with all the weapons in the shooting range before you go online helps a lot, and most importantly, it's a lot of fun. Seriously, sometimes I'll just pop into the shooting range to mess around and do a bit of target practice rather than playing the multiplayer stuff. The realism of it all, especially when it comes to the Sense controller's adaptive triggers, which mimic the feel of pulling a real trigger, makes even this simple area so much fun to mess around in. Online multiplayer is where Pavlov truly shines though, and there are loads of modes to try, including standard deathmatches, search and destroy, gun game, a fully fledged co-op zombie survival mode, and even a World War II tank versus tank deathmatch mode. This is definitely one for the more hardcore VR heads amongst us, but if you're up for some visceral, blood-pumping combat in VR, you won't get better than this. And there we have it, my favourite games of the first year of the PSVR2 in a Christmassy nutshell. Looking at it now, it does feel like this list is quite heavily weighted towards older launch titles, and honestly I feel like a lot of the more recent releases on the headset have been rather disappointing in one way or another. Especially things like Firewall Ultra, which really missed the mark. And talking about missing, loads of PSVR2 games that should have been out this year have been delayed to 2024. And these are games that I was certain would feature in my top 10. Games like Vertigo 2, Phasmophobia, Breaches, Bulletstorm, and Lo-Fi were all due to come out in 2023, but they've all now sadly missed their release dates. On the plus side, these delays should guarantee that 2024 will be an excellent year for PSVR2 owners the world over, and I for one can hardly wait to see what's in store for us all. And on that note, if this video is the first you've ever seen of my VR coverage, Ian's VR Corner happens every Sunday here on this channel, so do subscribe to Eurogamer for all of that and much, much more. Oh, and of course, if you're watching this video when it first comes out, do have a lovely Christmas holiday and a wonderful new year. Goodbye.